Tuesday morning, everyone. This is First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe alongside Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall, Kevin Wilds. Kevin's still getting dressed, so it's the day of the week. We all sit down at the last minute. No, you look great. We all look great. It's a great day to have a great day.
Jenna, don't start the show off with a lie.
What?
It's okay. Just don't.
What are you talking about?
You don't need to lie to Kevin. He knows.
Where's the lie?
You do, but I mean, Kevin knows he's got to get himself together. It's all right. He's the television pro here. He should know these things.
I brought Kevin along for the ride. All right, why don't we talk something we all can agree on, like a little Monday Night Football. A little Saints, a little Chargers, and just like that, Saints found themselves down 17 points to the Chargers, but Drew Brees rallied last night, threw a touchdown, ran for a touchdown. And how about the New Orleans Saints just barely sneaking by for the 30-27 overtime win? New Orleans doing it without Michael Thomas last night. He was suspended for punching a teammate during Saturday's practice, but crisis avoided. Yep, as New Orleans still pulled out the win. Here is Drew Brees on the sticky situation with his receiver.
I've spoken with Mike. Mike and I talk a lot, both in person in the locker room, through text message. We're always communicating. And so at the end of the day, man, Mike is a big part of this team, and he's going to be a big part of this team, moving forward. There was, we had an incident, and Sean addressed it, and many of the leaders have spoken with Mike as well, and we're going to be all good.
All right, Brandon, so the Saints do get the win. They're now tied atop the division at 3-2. That despite what happened with Michael Thomas. So how should Saints fans be feeling this morning?
Well, first of all, Nick, I promise you, when we get back in studio and you're within 6 feet, I will never punch you. I may, nudge you, but I will never punch you. I can promise you that. Wilds, I can't promise you that, Wilds. I can't.
Oh, that's a bad beat for Kevin. It's a bad beat for Kevin. I was going to say I can make none of those promises to anyone on the show, but it's good to know that that's how Brandon feels. Good, okay.
Right. Well, Jenna, look, the Saints fans should feel extremely good right now. It's hard to get a win in the National Football League. They beat a really good team with a bad record, so they should be great. They should feel great right now. Another thing they should feel really good about is Drew Brees doing something that we haven't seen him do in a very long time. He got another wide receiver involved outside of Michael Thomas. Think about this, and here's a graph for you guys. Since 2017, there's only been a handful of receivers that's gone over 100 yards in a game. Ted Ginn Jr. and Traquan Smith. And Traquan Smith, I was there when he did that. He did it 2 games back-to-back last year. So I saw him do that. And after that, we couldn't even get him involved. So hats off to Drew Brees. I've been saying it all year. Their #1 challenge, their biggest problem, the only thing that can take them down is their lack of ability to get the ball to other receivers. No Mike Thomas. Insert Emmanuel Sanders. First couple weeks, you can't get him involved. They don't throw it to him. He's uncomfortable throwing to other guys. And last night, it was like, you know what? Let me let this thing rip. We're down. What do I have to lose? They're going to crush me tomorrow morning if we lose this game. So let me let it rip. And Emmanuel Sanders looked amazing. He had a great burst off the line of scrimmage. His speed was there. Running routes. Oh, he looked like the Emmanuel Sanders from the Pittsburgh Steelers days. So this is why they won the game, because Drew Brees finally let it rip.
So, it's funny you referenced there at the end, Brandon, the Pittsburgh Steelers, because the only people this morning who maybe should be more nervous than Saints fans, I think, are Steeler fans, your hometown team. Because you look around the landscape of the league, and these old quarterbacks are looking shaky at best. Phillip Rivers, I think, just threw another interception this morning. Tom Brady doesn't know what down it is. Drew Brees, while he rallied late, Drew Brees did not look good yesterday. And then there's Big Ben, who's played solid this year for an undefeated team, but you have to wonder if he's next on this list. So I'm with you that it was good to see Emmanuel Sanders get involved, to see that when Michael Thomas comes back, you would hope the Saints would have a legitimate 1-2 punch at wide receiver instead of it just being Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara with a little Jared Cook mixed in. But this team will go as Drew Brees takes them. And I watched a quarterback last night, Brandon, that did not look like he had much left in the tank. A quarterback that early in a season looked like how he's looked late in seasons the last few years. And if I'm New Orleans, that is greatly, greatly concerning to me, Wilds, that we have continued to go all in on the end of the Drew Brees prime. And what they might be realizing is the Drew Brees prime has been over. And this team without a great quarterback isn't good enough. And I don't know that they've got a great in fact, I know they don't have a great quarterback anymore.
No. What about the game-saving drive from the other great quarterback, Taysom Hill? Nick, you got to love this Taysom Hill play. I don't know where we shake out on this. It's Brandon, before you got on the show, it was our part-time hobby of Nick's to just bash Taysom Hill. So here's great Taysom Hill. Then earlier in the game, we had kind of like mediocre Taysom Hill. So, Brandon, where do you stand on the way the Saints use Taysom Hill? I kind of dislike it, and then I watch it with a reference early in the morning.
Yeah, I love it. Here's 3. Yep, we'll have more of those.
Here's the thing about Taysom Hill. And a lot of people don't understand this. He's a matchup nightmare. You don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to catch the ball? Is he going to throw the ball? Is he going to run the ball? He also does trick plays on special teams. We can validate his compensation, his salary, just off of what he does on special teams alone. I know a lot of people, they don't feel comfortable taking out Drew Brees and inserting Taysom Hill, but you got to think about what that does to the defensive coaches and players leading up to the game. You have to focus on the formations and the different player personnel groups that the Saints throw at you, and you also got to focus on Taysom Hill. Think about this. We cheer on and applaud the Philadelphia Eagles for running a trick play, the Philly special in the Super Bowl, a play that they worked on all year. We also cheer on the New England Patriots when they run their trick plays and like, hey, we were working on this in preseason, but they don't roll it out until the playoffs or the Super Bowl. So this is chess. When you have Taysom Hill, coach is looking at how can I run this play today that can set up something tomorrow that gives us the advantage. So that's the thing that Taysom Hill brings to the table. But it is awkward at times when they put him in there and it doesn't work, Nick.
Hold on. Okay, all right. A few things. Okay, Brandon, you mentioned he validates his compensation with what he does in special teams alone. That maybe used to be true. Yeah. But he's on the books for $16 million next year. That's first of all. Second of all, what they did with him at the goal line is exactly how he should be.
Well, let's say 3 for 21. Let's say 3 for 21. Okay. I love how you play with the numbers like he's getting paid.
No, I didn't play with the numbers. That's what. Okay, for next year, he's $16 million. Right now, he might still be a bargain, but that bill's coming due. But very quickly, at the goal line, I got no problem with you bringing in a dual threat option. But in every other aspect of their offense, he does nothing for them. Jenna, Brandon can say you don't know what he's going to do, but I can tell you what he's not going to do. Complete a pass. He's not going to take the ball, throw it, and have someone catch it. So he might do a lot of other things, but what he's not going to do is complete a pass down the field. I mean, the Taysom Hill.
All right, but here's the thing.
It's too much.
You may not like Taysom Hill. Sean Payton loves Taysom Hill, and as long as he does, he's going to be incorporated in a large way or a small way in that Saints offense in some capacity.
Like how you love Danny Ainge. Gets fit into the show whether it makes sense or not. It doesn't mean it's good.
Is a Hall of Famer. If you want to have a different conversation, we can have that one. Talk some NFC East with Dak out. Could Andy Dalton be the best quarterback in the division? I'm torn. What do I do? Said Natalie and Bruglia. All right. Let's talk some NFC East now. Coming into Sunday, so Fox Bet had the Cowboys holding the best odds to win the NFC East. But with Dak Prescott now lost for the season, and with backup quarterback Andy Dalton in, Fox Bet still has the Cowboys with the best odds to win the NFC East. How about that? That is faith. and Andy Dalton. So, Brandon, you still buying the Cowboys as the favorites to win the division with Dalton under center?
I am. I mean, this is why you go out and you get this type of quarterback to back up your QB1. I think around 5-6 years ago, we saw this shift in teams' approach and getting quarterbacks that can come in and can stabilize the situation. A lot of quarterbacks were going down, and when that happened, then everything just broke loose. So I really like Andy Dalton in this situation. You got to think about who he's surrounded by. You got 3 number one wide receivers. You got Lamb, you got Gallup, you got Cooper, and you can also throw Schultz in there, who's a really good pass-catching tight end. And then you got Zeke in a running game. A quarterback's best friend is the running game. So I'm obviously, like everyone else, nervous about the defensive situation, but I don't need you guys to go out there and pick the ball off. I don't need you guys to go out there and put a fence up when you get in the red zone. I don't need you guys to be lights out on 3rd down. What I need is you guys to have great effort. I need you guys to be able to tackle and don't bust simple coverages. We're talking about fundamentals. We're talking about cover 3. We're talking about quarters. We're talking about man. We're talking about do you know who you have? If they can do that, they can. Because on the other side, Philly, and this is a rhetorical question. Don't answer it, Jenna, but who are their receivers? Can you name their number 1, number 2 wide receivers? No, none of us can. And that is the problem. Carson Wentz is more than capable, but his guys around him are not. Now, when Alshon Jeffrey gets back, when he gets back, that's a different story.
Brandon, hold on. The point you make about the Cowboys supporting cast is all valid, and Andy Dalton is maybe, a more than serviceable backup quarterback. But let's be honest here. You saying, and I agree with you, that the Cowboys could run away with this division, that is an indictment on Philly. That is an indictment on Philly, and that is an indictment on Carson Wentz as well, correct? It's not just that the Cowboys are so great even without Dak. It's that Philly is that much of a disaster as well, correct?
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing. It's going to go down. Like, you guys are... We're forced to answer this question. It's going to go down to the very last games of the season. We know that. This is a mess of a division. But the reality is there's no one surrounding Carson Wentz. And I don't know when Alshon Jeffrey is going to come back. And I don't know how long it's going to take for him to get into mid-season form. When you look at Dallas, they have everything they need on the offensive side. Now, obviously, they're banged up on the offensive line, and defensively, they gotta change some things. But if they can just get the fundamentals down on defense, they'll be okay. So Andy Dalton is more than capable, and there's an argument that Andy Dalton, when you look at how Carson Wentz is playing right now, up and down all season, every single quarter, every single drive, that Andy Dalton is the best quarterback in this division.
Okay, there you go. You got there. I was trying to hold on real quick, Jen. I'm sorry. I was trying to walk Brandon to that, and he finally said it. That right there is a hell of a take. And I look at it and I say, I don't know that he's wrong. I was texting with our buddy Eric Mangini this weekend because Mangini, like Jenna and Wilds and Brandon and Ketta, who produces the show, were all trolling me about the Chiefs' loss. I hear from folks I haven't heard from in months because the Chiefs haven't lost in months. So I mean, it's just my phone just keeps binging every time Derek Carr completes a pass. And when I was texting with Mangini, because, he's always the last one to believe in the young quarterbacks, I texted him, the young quarterback that the whole world fell in love with that might have been premature, Jenna, I think it might have been Carson Wentz. I think we all loved those 13 games he played his second year, and since then, he has been nothing like that player. And while I understand the Eagles once again are dealing with injuries on the offensive line and the receiving corps, I get all of that. If you are a great quarterback in this league, you have to be playing better than Carson Wentz has played. We're now through a third of the season for them. They haven't had a brutal schedule. For them to be the underdogs to a Dallas team with the worst defense in football, think about that, Jenna. The Cowboys have the worst defense in the NFL, and they just lost their quarterback for the season. And Philly is still not the favorites in the division. That is also about Carson Wentz, Jenna.
Well, I was just going to say, we could make this about Carson Wentz, and a big portion of it is, but you can't overlook Andy Dalton. He's not just a placeholder. He's not just some, random veteran that you brought in that's just going to hopefully hold down the fort while you pray that everything else works and you really press the run game. I mean, Andy Dalton didn't fall that far off, and I think we talked a lot about that when you brought him in. He's a fully capable veteran who can come in, knows the offense probably, could, be some semblance of a mentor if that team needed one. I think you might have something in Andy Dalton, despite what you don't have right now in Carson Wentz. Brandon, does that make sense?
It does make sense, but you got to look at the last 4 years in Cincy. Underachievers, they just look bad. Andy didn't look great, but he's more than capable, Jenna. You're 100% right there. I mean, this guy was in the Pro Bowl. I played in the Pro Bowl with him, so I had an opportunity to catch balls from him. He's super smart. And playing for Coach Mark Trustman in Chicago was the first time I realized that the quarterback position is almost all mental. So, that's why I don't like when you, Nick, when you crush the Tom Brady's of the world and the Drew Brees of the world and the Ben Roethlisbergers of the world, because they have so much experience. And you're looking at the physical, and the quarterback position is about how much do you know? Do you know if it's cover 3? Do you know if it's disguise? Do you know what they're rolling to post-snap? So that's what Andy Dalton gives you, is a guy that understands when the ball is hiked, where do I go? Do I go to number 1? Do I go to number 2? Or do I go to my check down? Do I get there fast? Do you understand that? And Jenna, I am excited to see what Andy Dalton does. I love what they're doing on the offensive side. And he has so many playmakers that he can get the ball to.
Oh, I'll go.
Go ahead, Wiles. I know.
So, Wiles, what you got?
Wiles? I'm just hanging out. I was thinking about Andy Dalton. I think there's a narrative out there that Andy Dalton is washed, and he's not. He's sneaky young. He's going to be 33 at the end of the month. He's a full year younger than Drake, and he's 13 months to the day older than Russell Wilson. So unless you're saying Russell Wilson's going to be washed in 13 months, and Andy Dalton's not washed. Wait. Now, I think that because his... What are you saying, oh, my God, for? Why are you oh, my God, me? Go ahead, Nick. Why are you oh, my God,
I don't think people think Andy Dalton's washed because he's too old. It's because he's not very good. Like, he's a good backup quarterback. No, okay, go ahead. Sorry, I'll let you finish your point.
So what happened? I'll give you two stats. I'll give you two stats. He went 50 and 26. They had those 11 and 5 years, and AJ Green's, they're doing great. And then he went 20 and 34. Did he fall off the cliff in his late 20s? What happened? Or did he just not have the weapons in Cincinnati? I'd argue that he just didn't have the weapons. If you're saying he's not washed, he didn't forget how to play quarterback, and he's physically fine. He hurt his thumb a few times. That's it. So now he has the weapons. I think he's going to be great.
Yeah, okay, well, see, that's I feel like it's going, hold on real quick, Brandon. I just feel like we're taking it two steps too far. I think he's better than the vast majority of backup quarterbacks. I think he will be serviceable with the excellent weapons the Cowboys have. But there is a reason that when Andy Dalton when Cincinnati got rid of him, that there wasn't a single team in the league that was like, you know what? Let's make him our starter. The Bears were like, bring in Nick Foles. The Colts were like, hey, old man Phillip Rivers, come on down. Yeah, but that was a more complex reason. There were off the field, stupid off the field concerns and legitimate injury concerns. And Dalton ain't going to be Cam. The Patriots also, by the way, passed on Dalton. When we now know their other options were Hoyer and Stidham, which would have been a total disaster. So I feel like I'm being boxed in to crush Dalton where I don't want to. I think the Cowboys will win the division. But the idea that Andy Dalton is this diamond in the rough because he's still young, yeah, he's young and mediocre. Okay, that's fine. It's probably enough to win the NFC East. But if they win the NFC East, it's not because Dalton's great. It's because he's serviceable. He's not going to be Nathan Peterman as a backup. But we know what Andy Dalton is and what he isn't. Like, that just because he's now going to be wearing a Cowboys uniform doesn't change that.
Well, there is a lot to the environment. There is a lot to who's surrounding you. Time will tell. There's this narrative out there that every head coach, every executive, every GM is smart. Sometimes they make stupid decisions. You look at Cam Newton being on the open market for as long as he was. Andy Dalton, no one wants to touch him. Well, let's see what he does with all these guys around him in this offense.
Sure.
All right, speaking of quarterbacks who need to step up moving forward, Nick, one Patrick Mahomes. It's what happens when you start out that good. First things first. Back here talking some football. The Chiefs' 13-game regular season win streak was snapped Sunday by the Raiders. Did not having Derek Carr on my bingo board of quarterbacks that would outplay Patrick Mahomes. Didn't see that at all. Chiefs now begin prep for an undefeated Bills team on the road next Monday night. Andy Reid saying yesterday, we'll get back at it. That is how we roll. All right, Nick, I know you got thousands and thousands of texts. Was the Chiefs' loss to the Raiders just a blip, or was it a sign of real problems for Kansas City?
It's obviously just a blip. And I do appreciate the fact that the Chiefs, despite having only won one Super Bowl in the last half century, have been elevated so far above the rest of the league in the eyes of the media that we're going to treat them like the 73-9 war, the better example, the KD Warriors, where every loss, it's like, oh, are they vulnerable? Could we find a hole here? Folks, listen, they lost their left guard during the game. That actually is a problem, so the offensive line needs to be better. The defense was horrible, and Derek Carr played great. That's what happened. But what I would challenge my friend Brandon Marshall to do is this. Tell me a team other than Green Bay, who's played pretty flawless so far this year, that we couldn't pick holes in, that we couldn't say this is a major concern.
Buffalo Bills.
Because I don't...
Buffalo Bills.
That's
Buffalo
good.
Bills.
Okay, so the Buffalo Bills...
Who they play next week?
The Buffalo Bills...
Who they play next week?
So the Buffalo Bills, who had a 25-point lead to the Rams that they blew and would have lost that game if not for a gift pass interference call, that's the team you're going to hang your hat on. Anybody else? Anybody else other than Buffalo, or is it just Buffalo?
100%, they won the game. You're the same person that talked about when Wiles keep calling you out about how they struggled against the Colts, how they really struggled all year. And I mean, not the Colts, the Chargers. Yeah. And you're the one that says, "Well, we won the game. Does it matter? Right. We won the game. Are we supposed to win?"
That's totally fair. You're right about that. So I'm curious. So Buffalo, you would slide ahead of Kansas City. Anybody else you want to add to that list? I'm very curious. Anybody else?
Asked about one. You asked about one. You asked for one.
Oh, no,
you asked for one.
No, that's fair. That's totally fair. I just wanted to know. The reason I asked was I wanted to know the level of alarm we're assigning to the Chiefs. Is it that there might be one team better than them, or that they're vastly overrated and they're an 8 or 9 win team? I'm just curious because I'm still slotting them in as the massive favorites to win the Super Bowl, and I just want to know where the rest of the show lands on it. Go ahead.
Well, here's the deal. A blip, when you look at a blip, it's like the Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs going out and only scoring, 10 points, 13 points. That's a blip. Like this team, this high-powered offense, they can go out there and put up 40 points every single week. And I think that's part of the issue. And then when you look at problems, to me, a problem is the New Orleans Saints. No Michael Thomas, and then everybody in the entire building is uncomfortable, and you see what happens there. So I don't think they have problems. What I think is, like every other team, they have weaknesses. Every team has weaknesses, and they're being exposed right now. And I said this a couple of weeks ago. I also said it yesterday. Go back to Week 14 in 2019, the zone coverage that Bill Belichick and the Patriots threw at them presented problems. They only scored 23 points. And then what happens again this year? 20 points against the same zone coverage. And what did the Raiders do? They did the same thing. They mixed it. So Patrick Mahomes felt comfortable. Oh, they just went man-to-man, so they're going to go man-to-man again. And it was zone, and he didn't know what to do with the ball. That is their problem, because how this team is set up and how they're built is that this is a team that can go out there and score 40, even 50 points on any given Sunday. That doesn't just put pressure on the opposing offense. It put on the opposing defense. It also puts pressure on the offense. I've been in situations where we're going against the Peyton Manning-led Colts, and we knew that we had to score every single possession. We couldn't kick field goals. We knew we needed 6. And that amount of pressure on myself, Jay Cutler, Eddie Royal, Tony Scheffler, that was a lot. And what we end up doing was playing bad. That's i.e. the Baltimore Ravens. We know that their defense isn't good. So when you go against a team that can slow you up, and they can also score points with you, then we're seeing a Kansas City Chiefs team struggle, and that is their issue.
Okay. Here, I think the Chiefs are good. Nick, I think the Chiefs are very good. But they're not a combination of the 85 Bears and the Avengers, as you claim that they're going to run undefeated and they're going to have multiple championships, 7 championships in this dynasty in the making. They're a very good team. But in the last few weeks, they haven't executed, and it caught up with them. They needed 2 58-yard field goals to beat the Chargers. Then they beat the JV Patriots after leading by the mighty score of 6-3. And then they finally lost to the Raiders.
They can play.
So they're not executing.
They can play that game.
They have to make. That's what I'm saying. Lost to the JV Patriots.
I know.
They haven't executed.
I'm just making sure.
Mahomes is running around crazy. And it finally caught up with them. But you don't have to take my word for it. Let's go to the videotape, Jenna.
As far as us offensively, we've kind of done it these last few weeks, obviously other than the Ravens game where we didn't execute at a high enough level to go out there and score like we've been known to score. And it caught up with us today. And so we got to go back and really look at ourselves in the mirror, me at quarterback, and really not rely on these crazy plays where I'm scrambling around and throwing these shots, and just execute the offense the way that it's called and the way that we're supposed to be ran. And if we do that, we'll be a hard team to stop.
No, that's Patrick Mahomes. It's Patrick Mahomes.
That's what I just said. I didn't even watch this press conference.
No, listen. If your point is against the Raiders when they scored 32, they left a lot of points on the field, I totally agree. They had a 65-yard touchdown taken away because of a holding call. They had a drop 3rd and 20 conversion. No, they left it. They holding calls now. Listen. No. I'm just saying. I agree with you. In the game where they scored 32 points, they left a lot of points on the field. And if we are going to pretend the annihilation of the Baltimore Ravens, who have the best point differential in football this year, have beaten everyone they've played by multiple scores, that didn't count, then they're in real trouble. And in fact, if we decide the Patriots win, they're in even more trouble. And if 58-yard field goals don't count, then I think they only have one win. It's the Texans win, and Bill O'Brien was coaching that team. So does that even actually count? The more I think about it, hold on, wait, you guys might have convinced me.
After hearing those comments, you guys are in trouble. After hearing those comments, you guys are in trouble.
Okay.
100%. After hearing those comments, here's why. So first of all, I talked to the great Phil Simms about is Patrick Mahomes the greatest quarterback ever? He said, Brandon, usually I would tell you to slow down, but I'm saying you're not far off here. He can go, and this was 4 weeks ago. He can easily go down as the greatest quarterback ever. Why? Because exactly what he just said. He said, we're so used to putting up so many points. I'm so used to running around making these crazy plays. And that's why we're having this discussion about him potentially going down as the greatest quarterback ever in his young career, because we're seeing him do something at a level that's never been done before. Like every time we turn on the tube, we're seeing this guy run around and make crazy throws and crazy passes like it's just him sitting in a pocket. But here's what I saw in the game, and I talked about this yesterday. He looked uncomfortable running around. He looked like he didn't want to get hit. He's tired of making these crazy plays. He just wants to sit back and go through routine operation. You guys are in trouble. Those comments are alarming, Nick.
Oh, yes. Wow, that is okay. Just real quick. I'm so excited because I was worried for the show, like, what are we going to do with the Chiefs? because I'm obviously a lifelong Chiefs fan, and everyone on the panel acknowledges they're awesome. But now we've got Brandon's on the record, the Bills are better, and the Chiefs are in trouble. On the record, and now we get to see it play out. So now we get to see. And Wilds, to be fair, I did not pick the Chiefs 1.7% chance of going undefeated. I gave them, you check the tape. I said 20. Now, I did say 6 or 7 Super Bowls, and I'll stand by that. And I'll stand by. No, I didn't, Jenna. And I'll stand by that. The 6 or 7 Super Bowls, I'll stand by. And so we'll just see. But it's good. It's good. I'm very excited for it. I'm excited for it. The Chiefs,
I'm glad
underdog Chiefs. Nobody believes in us Chiefs.
Get back to our top story this morning. The Saints, without their star wideout, barely beating a 1-win Chargers team last night. We'll break it all down next. First things first.
No, that's a loss. If you barely beat the Chargers, you lose.
So the Lakers were crowned NBA champs less than 48 hours ago, and our friends at Fox Bet have wasted 0 time setting the table for next season. They've got LeBron and the Lakers as the favorites to repeat at plus 350. Clippers listed second, followed by the Warriors, Bucks, Celtics, and how about that? The Nets. All of those second, third, fourth, fifth place have brought nothing but joy to Nick Wright. Chris Broussard is joining us now for what I'm sure will be fiery and fun conversation. I want to start with you, though, Nick. Who's a better bet to win a title in 2021? The Lakers or the field?
I'll take the Lakers. Took the Lakers last year. It's worked out pretty well. The field, when you look at that list, massive disrespect for the silver and bronze finishers of the bubble, Miami and Denver. They're not even listed. It's just play the same old hits, I suppose, at the betting markets. The Clippers, obviously, embarrassingly overvalued. Do they have a coach yet? I'm not sure. I haven't heard. We should look into that. And the Warriors, what they have baked in there, evidently, is that they're going to trade for a star. Unfortunately for them, they don't have the assets to do it. They do have Broussard's favorite 4th option of all time, Andrew Wiggins, so they have that going for them, which is nice. But the Warriors is crazy. The Nets are scary, and the Nets, if they learn from the mistakes of the Clippers, should be second favorites right behind the Lakers. But I don't know if they're going to learn from those mistakes, and that Kyrie KD podcast deserves its own 10-hour Last Dance style documentary breaking down all of the insanity that was said in those 2 hours. But the Bucks, if they add a piece, are scary. The Nuggets have the assets to add a piece. That's scary. But yeah, Broussard, I'm going to go ahead and go with the team with the best player in the league, and maybe next year a top 3 player in Anthony Davis. I'll take them against the field, and we'll see how it shakes out.
Well, I will reserve the right to make my official pick before the season starts. But right now, I'm actually going to agree with Nick. I will go with the Lakers. I think they should enter. The bottom line, they should enter as the favorite. Now, let me just clear the record since y'all dissing. All right. Last year, I picked the Lakers at this time, too. When they got Anthony Davis, I picked the Lakers, and I worked with them. I stuck with them. After Christmas Day, their second loss to the Clippers, I said, you know what? They can't beat the Clippers. All right, so I went on the Clippers. But I was wrong. All right. But now I would say you have to start with the Lakers next season. Right. Anthony Davis is only going to get better. Well, no, I'm an analyst. I'm analyzing. Things change at times. I don't have a team I root for, but I'm calling it like I see it.
Me neither.
Right now, I see it as the Lakers are the best team, but my official pick will come before the season starts. Look, Anthony Davis is going to get better. I think this experience, this winning, on the grand stage, LeBron will continue to motivate him, to push him to begin to seal his own legacy. And I'm going to keep motivating LeBron by dangling that goat carrot out in front of him. Unlike Nick Wright. Nick Wright is just worship and adoration that would make King James complacent. I'm going to continue to motivate him to be even better. Everyone else has questions. Brooklyn, there's questions. Milwaukee, they need another star. Houston, are they going to play small ball or are they going to play big? The Clippers, as you said, chemistry questions, who's going to be the coach? And everybody else is young. Denver, Philadelphia, Boston. Miami's just not that talented. Let's keep it real. So, yeah, right now, the Lakers should be the favorites. I know you think they're the best team, them in Denver, Brandon, but...
Oh, more shots. Broussard's out here emptying the clip, man. Go ahead, Wild. Sorry.
Go ahead, Wild.
Hey, all right. So, I mean, it's all like who's getting better, who's getting worse, right? The team that got a lot better is Brooklyn. So if I had to take the field, I like Brooklyn. But Broussard, you said something very interesting. You said the Bucks need another star. We know that Chris Paul is probably not long for Oklahoma City. You know he's got a big contract, and Lasry met with Giannis over a 3-hour lunch, which is a very long lunch, to discuss we're going to get another star. But if Chris Paul goes to Milwaukee, I feel like the world would turn on the Lakers and say Giannis is now going to be the champion. Are you buying that?
I think you'd still have to stay with the Lakers, but I think Milwaukee obviously would be better. But we would have to see how it works. Well, here's the thing. Chris Paul would have the ball in his hands. How is Giannis? I'm not saying it wouldn't work. I'd have to see it because Giannis has played with the ball in his hands for the last several years. That's how he's emerged as a superstar. How would he be primarily off the ball? He doesn't shoot it well. Is he going to post? Maybe. You know, but I think that would be an interesting experiment, but one worth taking because it would potentially make them the champs. I would just stay with L.A. right now.
Man. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going with the field. I mean, you got Golden State out there. They're healthy. They're going to come back fired up. You got the other team on the other side of L.A., and you also got the Nets. You know, if Kyrie can stay healthy, they're going to be a problem. And you also, so while you said that, Chris said something interesting. Chris, you said another thing interesting. You said that the Heat they're not that good. Is that what you said?
They're not.
I don't think they're one of the 5, off the top of my head, most talented teams in the league.
Great, but that's who the Lakers just beat in the finals. So for me, I said this earlier, it's not a knock, Nick, on the great LeBron James. I'm not taking anything away from it. It's not an asterisk. I think that LeBron James and how he's built and his mindset and how he approached this restart in the bubble gave them the advantage to win the championship. But when you look at this was the easiest path to the championship of all of LeBron's finals. You got to think about what the L.A. Lakers did coming into it. They actually didn't want to come. Other teams were struggling mentally. Other teams had guys opting out. So when you look at this and you talk about the L.A. Lakers, I can see if we were talking about them if they beat a really good team in the finals. They did not. So for that reason, I'm taking the field. The Miami Heat, they weren't supposed to be in the finals.
Brandon, but before the finals, they beat Denver, who I know you think is a great team, and they beat them in 5. They beat a Rockets team with 2 MVP. Okay,
not a championship team.
Listen, guess what? Guess what? Nobody in the league this year was a championship team except for one team that won the championship. We got no real defending champ because Kawhi left, so you can't say the Raptors were a championship team. They lost Kawhi. The Warriors, they weren't whole. So this year it was like the defending champion spot was kind of vacant, so there was no championship team. There was only going to be one. It's the one that won the title. And it is, if the Lakers had won the title because a major player on the Clippers or a major player on the Bucks got hurt, then I would listen to this easy path stuff. But the idea that the path was easy because the teams that the media said were supposed to be good weren't as good as the media told us they were going to be, that's insanity. The Clippers were not that good. The Clippers got beat by a team that the Lakers washed over. And the Bucks, for as dominant as they were in the regular season, there were some folks, admittedly I wasn't one of them, pointing out their major playoff flaws all year long, and that got exposed in the postseason, not coincidentally, by the team the Lakers ended up beating. So it wasn't.
You got to take that into account. In the middle of a global pandemic, a lot of racial tension, and the LA Clippers was supposed to face the LA Lakers. And for whatever reason, they had so many issues. It's not about, it had nothing to do with them on the court. Everything off the court.
No. Kawhi and Paul George, I think, are still trying to make a second half shot. So, no, I think it was on the court. They were not very good.
We will continue to talk about this. We got to take a turn now and check in with the Cowboys. Their quarterback, Dak Prescott, is out of surgery. He's got a long recovery ahead of him. Where do the Cowboys go from here with Andy Dalton under center? This is First Things First. With LeBron James, the King, taking home his 4th title and 4th Finals MVP Sunday. His head coach, Frank Vogel, showering LeBron with praise after delivering the Lakers their 17th title. Take a listen to this.
Well, there's not uncertainty in my mind with LeBron James. And, I took the job. We didn't have Anthony Davis. We didn't have really our whole team. It was a different team after the fact, but I've always believed in LeBron James. He's the greatest player the basketball universe has ever seen. And if you think you know, you don't know. Okay, until you're around him every day, you're coaching him, you're seeing his mind, you're seeing his adjustments, seeing the way he leads the group. If you think you know, you don't know.
Somewhere out there, Michael Jordan's like, hey, turn that up. What was that he said? Chris Broussard is joining us again. All right, Broussard, did LeBron winning change the GOAT debate at all in your eyes?
Look, here's what it did, is it kept the debate going. If LeBron had lost the finals or not gotten there, not gotten finals MVP, in many people's eyes, it would be over. Remember when The Last Dance was playing months ago? After it ran, the network that ran it did a poll. 73% of people said Jordan's the GOAT. 66% of 18 to 34-year-olds, a little younger than Nick, said it. So Jordan had it. Now this latest narrative keeps LeBron alive, and I think brings some of those people back into the LeBron camp, or at least open-minded. I still have Jordan number 1, LeBron number 2. Here's the number 1 reason. Well, not the number 1, but one of the reasons. Jordan dominated the NBA in a way that LeBron hasn't. There have been 2 3-peats. Jordan had 2 3-peats in 7 years. 2 3-peats in 7 years. Everyone else who has stepped on the planet and played basketball has 1 3-peat in 54 years. And that was Shaq and Kobe, 2 of the top 10 players of all time. Once Jordan started winning, no one else could win. He kept a host of Hall of Famers from winning championships. Ewing, Barkley, Drexler, Elijah Wan, Shaq, Robinson. We could go on and on. LeBron hasn't done that. LeBron locked down the East for 8 years, and everyone else in the East was shook. We can't win it. Jordan did that to the entire NBA. All right? LeBron has not kept other superstars from winning, from eating. Durant's 8. Steph's 8. Dirk Nowitzki 8. Kawhi's 8. And old Tim Duncan 8. They all won championships under LeBron's watch. There is no LeBron watch or era when it comes to winning. There's a LeBron watch for greatness, but not winning, because all those other guys have won championships as well. Secondly, Jordan does not have a weakness, Nick. I can point a weakness out in Magic, Bird, Shaq, Kareem, and yes, LeBron. You want to poo-poo it? Free throw shooting, a weakness. Lack of a mid-range pull-up game, a weakness that we saw at the end of Game 5, that we saw against Golden State. When he couldn't pull up over Draymond and shoot the short jumper, he kicked it out to Kyle Korver. That's a weakness. It's a small one, but it's there and hinders him a little bit. And then over-dribbling, over-dominating the basketball limits what other stars can do. That's why the 3rd star, Chris Bosh, Kevin Love, becomes a role player. And that limits your team's ability to win more titles. Jordan had no weakness. Don't point to three-point shooting, because it wasn't a weakness back then. And by the way, he has the same percentage as Kobe Bryant, which never was a weakness. So Michael Jordan had no weaknesses. I got more, but I'll let you respond.
Go more. I can go.
So listen, I've been having this debate for 3 years on television, and I've never wanted to do what I'm about to do. I've always, to quote the great Michelle Obama, I've always tried to go high when others go low. I have always tried to run a positive campaign, a campaign celebrating the greatness of LeBron James, as opposed to what I'm about to have to do right now, which is tell you what Chris Broussard and his ilk, what the media does not want you to know about Michael Jordan. Because here are some facts. Before Scottie Pippen got there, a total and complete loser. Not just never got out of the first round, not just 1-9 in the playoffs, never even above 500 in the regular season. Can I have point number 2, please? Larry Bird, the best player when he walked into the league. You know how many times Michael beat Larry in the playoffs? I don't mean in a series. I mean in a single playoff game. The answer to that is 0. But wait, there's more. In Jordan's entire career, there were 3 super teams in the East: the Celtics, the Pistons, and the Magic. His career playoff series record against those 3 teams, 2-6. But against everybody else, 23-1. Speaking of the East, which Chris Broussard mentioned in regards to LeBron James, once the Pistons were gone, do you know how many teams in the East, Jordan's entire title run, had more than one Hall of Famer? 1. The team Michael was on. He had Pippen, and then he had Pippen and Rodman. And then the last point Broussard loves to make, which is we pretend Jordan's career was 6 years long. Everyone ate on Michael's watch. We just pretend it didn't happen. Can we show guys who won rings in years Michael Jordan played? Well, Larry won, Kareem won, Magic won, Isaiah won, Hakeem won, Drexler won, Shaq won, Kobe won, David Robinson, Tim Duncan won. I'm not even including the years Michael retired. Those are only years Michael Jordan played basketball. So the media doesn't want you to know this.
Duncan.
Those are all facts.
Can I go next?
Look it up. Oh, hold on, wait a second. Wait, so I'm just, because I would agree that if we are deciding the only years of Jordan's career that count are the years he won championships, well, that's a hell of a resume. But that's not how this works. You can't get the points you scored the other years, the MVPs you won the other years, the Defensive Player of the Year you won the other years, but then say, but nobody ate. Nobody ate. He's still waiting. The only time he ever beat Larry Bird in the playoffs was when he was coaching the Pacers. The only time the Bulls faced during the title runs a real contender in the East, the first time they faced him, the Magic, they lost to him. That year doesn't count, though, either, because the rules are we can only talk about what he does well. He has no weaknesses. And don't you dare mention three-point shooting, to quote Broussard. Why can't I mention that? Because that's a weakness, and that hurts my point, damn it. So listen, I've never wanted to go negative, Broussard. I've never wanted to do this campaign. But what the media doesn't want you to know about Michael Jordan could fill a damn library, and that's my case.
Nick, I did expect more from you than that. I mean, my goodness. Can I say this, please, quickly?
Rebut
Here's
anything
the
I
one
said.
other
Before
thing.
you hold on.
No,
here's the other thing. No. You said
I gotta say this.
Wait.
Because I don't. Hold on. I'll rebut it after a while. This should not. And I said this yesterday on Undisputed. This should not define LeBron's career any more than Magic Johnson's tragic Johnson moment in '84 defines his career. It doesn't. But however, when you are debating the GOAT, you nitpick. And this is a nit to pick.
That's right.
Michael Jordan, unlike anyone else, never had a meltdown moment on the big stage. We never saw the stage being too big for Jordan. Magic, we saw it. Bird had 2 8-point games in his first finals and a 12-point game. We've seen it with other players. And we saw it, Nick, you can't run from it, with LeBron in 2011.
I'm not running from it.
That right
that's
there,
great. No one denies that.
He learned from
That's
it.
fine.
He became better.
That's great.
But it is an issue in the GOAT
But
debate. And Michael
right,
Jordan
I got it.
never.
I got it.
When Michael Jordan
I
lost those
understand that.
games you mentioned, he balled out. He never lost the finals he was supposed to win.
The game after he gambled. No, it's right. It's right. The game after he was out all night gambling in Atlantic City when they were down 2-0 and he went 3 for 18. That one doesn't count because the next game he was great.
Was the stage too big?
But I'm just curious.
Was it because the stage was too big?
I don't know why it was. I just know he went 3 for 18 in the game when his team was down 2-0 after he was out all night gambling. But I just know that happened.
They won, I
But
think,
I'm just curious
didn't
because you're very good at, like I said, the media like you. We can go negative at LeBron. Is anything I said there wrong?
No.
On my 5 points about Jordan, were any of those points wrong?
They weren't wrong, but they weren't that powerful. They weren't. When I said nobody won on Jordan's watch, I didn't say his whole career was his watch. I said once he started winning, once he took over the league, it was a wrap, baby. No one else got a chance. LeBron didn't rule the East his entire career, but once he took over the East, it was a wrap. But Jordan did it for the whole 30-team league. That's the difference.
The year Jordan won championships, no one won a championship. I would agree with you there.
Hey,
I don't know if it's quite as compelling of a point as others believe. Go ahead, Jenna. Sorry.
No, Brandon, you're new to this debate. I've heard this debate for a couple years between Broussard and Nick. It's every
Jenna,
time
I don't
it's
know
so
if I want to
entertaining.
jump.
Go ahead.
I don't. Listen, here's the thing, right? Yes, I mean, we've tried to have this debate over the last 2-3 months, and we've been holding out just for this moment. But this is what I hate about it. It's an impossible debate. And, Nick, you make it black and white. You make it seem like, oh, it's just clear-cut that LeBron is the GOAT. And you're a smart guy, and that's why I love you. But you can manipulate the numbers to make it tell the story you want it to tell. If you were on the side of MJ, you can make it a great case for him. Because when you look at the numbers, 6 titles to LeBron's 4. MJ, all his major honors came in the first 13 years on one team. LeBron, it took 3 teams, 4 stops in 17 years to get here. And then the last thing, MJ is the only player to average 30 points per game in a postseason career. So I say all that to say this, Nick, is that you can make the numbers tell whatever story you want it to tell. So it's not black and white.
Wilds.
You're not
Wilds.
Oh, Nick's relaxing.
No. I want to let you go.
Frank Vogel did a good job. Frank Vogel did a good job saying that he's the best player in the basketball universe has ever seen. And we can't comment on him unless we're around him every day and coach him. So Frank Vogel has made it a very narrow path if you can say that he's not the best. I actually have to get a job coaching LeBron before I can weigh in. But someone who is around him every day, Anthony Davis, was asked by Rachel straight up, hey, is this guy the GOAT? Layup time for Anthony Davis. Here's what he said. He talked about being down 3-1 to the Warriors. He talked about 3 franchises. Then he made a weird voice. He said he's different. Then he said this. All I can say is that it's a tough debate. We've got to speak facts. And he definitely made a case for himself by winning this championship tonight. So there's nothing like the unwavering support of his running mate, Anthony Davis, Broussard. I think that's unequivocally saying, hey, maybe he is or maybe he's not. So if he doesn't have the support of Anthony Davis, maybe
he was
LeBron
sitting right next to LeBron when he said that.
It's covered in confetti. Covered in confetti. It's just I
look,
bad
Nick.
for him.
You like to talk about the Hall of Famers that have beaten LeBron. LeBron hasn't won a ring without at least 2 Hall of Fame teammates. Wade and Bosh. Wade, Bosh, Ray Allen. Kyrie, and probably Kevin Love.
That's true.
And now you got Anthony Davis, and good chance there's Rajon Rondo. So stop throwing out Hall of Fame numbers on the other team, on this team.
Wait a second.
LeBron had plenty himself.
Wait a second. Okay, you're right. He has not won a title without Hall of Fame teammates. He has gotten to the finals without an all-star on his team, though. Meanwhile, your guy, again, I hate to go negative, 1-9, not series, 0-3 series, 1-9 in playoff games without Scottie Pippen wrapped around him. That's just the facts.
Make the numbers
Those are
look
just
how
the
you want
numbers. No, it's not me making the numbers. And by the way, if we're going to go to his teammate won't call him the GOAT, 3 years ago, Scottie Pippen said LeBron was better than Jordan. Now, he has since said the other and gone back and forth 11 times. But and by the way, Jenna, what city is Anthony Davis from? Jenna, what city is Anthony Davis from? Do you know? He's from
LA?
Chicago. Oh, okay.
Chicago.
I was off.
From
He last was in New Orleans.
It would have worked. He was from LA.
Oh, he's from
Listen,
Chicago.
the good news is we're not going to settle the debate today. We're going to have this debate for years to come. It's always fun. I like to always sit back and listen. Back to our top story on
been
the other
settled since
side.
2016.
Perhaps now isn't the time, after all, to count out Drew Brees. Monday Night Football next. Saints, Chargers, Monday Night Football last night, and before you could blink, the Saints found themselves down 17 points. But Drew Brees rallied last night, threw a touchdown, ran for a touchdown, and even though Justin Herbert looked pretty good, the Saints eked out the 30-27 overtime win. New Orleans, though, playing without Michael Thomas, their star wide receiver, suspended for punching a teammate during Saturday's practice. Christ is avoided. They did pull out the win. Here is Drew Brees on the sticky situation with his receiver.
I've spoken with Mike. Mike and I talk a lot, both in person in the locker room, through text message. We're always communicating. And so at the end of the day, man, Mike is a big part of this team, and he's going to be a big part of this team, moving forward. There was we had an incident, and Sean addressed it, and many of the leaders have spoken with Mike as well, and we're going to be all good.
You can't hit. I say that to my 5-year-old. Don't hit. Just talk it out. You can't hit. Brandon, how should Saints fans feel this morning?
They should feel good. I mean, it's hard to win a game in the National Football League, even for the good teams, the teams that win year after year after year. You have to bring it every single game, every single play. So for that reason, they should feel good. They should also feel really good about what they saw from their quarterback, Drew Brees. Finally, he seemed comfortable throwing it to someone else other than 41 and 13. Last night, he targeted Emmanuel Sanders 14 times, 12 receptions, 122 yards. But there still is a little glitch there, because when you look at Cooks, you look at Callaway, you look at Smith, they only had a combined 7 catches, I believe. That's an issue. So hopefully when Mike T comes back in the lineup, they can have both of these guys and they can have a little bit more balance. People crushed me this year when I went out on I Am Athlete podcast and I talked about they're done. Because everybody figured these guys out. Take away 13, take away 41, and there's no place to go because they're uncomfortable. Coach Payton dialing it up for anybody else, and Drew Brees feeling comfortable throwing the ball to someone else. So for that reason, I didn't think that they would be good this year. Actually, I thought they'd have a good regular season. They'll struggle in the postseason like they have the last 2 or 3 years. But last night, man, Drew Brees let it go. And something clicked for him when he said, I'm just going to let it rip. Emmanuel Sanders looked really good coming off the ball. He was explosive. He was fast. His route running looked like he was back with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And let's look at this graph so I can really highlight and show you guys how alarming this trend is in New Orleans with them not getting other guys involved. How many times have a wide receiver gone over 100 yards in the past 3 years? Mike Thomas, of course. He's one of the greatest receivers in the game right now. But then you have Tag Ginn with a wholly 3. Then you got Smith 2. And then Emmanuel Sanders finally added another one to the board last night. So he felt comfortable throwing it to that guy. And that's the reason why they escaped with a win.
So Drew Brees just doesn't look like himself, though, Brandon. Like, he's not the high-flying Drew Brees. And it's kind of like I feel good as a Tom Brady fan that Tom Brady looks more like Tom Brady than Drew Brees looks like Drew Brees. But that's a good take, Kevin. Here's the other thing, though, Nick. Yeah, you're right. That makes sense.
If you do say so yourself.
What are we doing with Taysom Hill? Is Taysom Hill good or is he not good? He has a bad night, and then all of a sudden, game-tying touchdown. So, Nick, I know you're the leader of the Taysom Hill fan club, especially after his big contract. Are you back on the Taysom Hill bandwagon? Whoop, whoop, after he leads the Saints to a big win against
All
the
right,
Chargers.
so this is, again, I get painted into these corners. I am on the record. All 32 teams would love to have Taysom Hill or someone similar to him on their team because he can do a little bit of everything. The problem is he's not really good at anything. And the way the Saints you're throwing him passes in the red zone. You're calling this play at midfield. You want to use him as a wildcat-ish quarterback in the red zone. That's great. You want to use him in special teams. That's great. But the way they're trying to force him into the lineup, it's second down at midfield. This is Taysom time when he's still working on double-digit career completions. Not quite there yet. I don't understand. But Brandon, I want to go back to you on Drew because what I have seen from Drew this year is concerning if you're a Saints fan. If you're a Bucs fan and Tom Brady, you should feel good, and quietly, you should feel really good. Panthers fans, because right thus far this year, and Teddy doesn't have Christian McCaffrey. He's been injured, doesn't have great weapons. Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Brees' numbers this year are damn near identical. And we can't be like, well, Drew doesn't have Mike Thomas. Teddy's got nobody close to a Mike Thomas, and his Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey been gone all year. I think even when Michael Thomas comes back, Brandon, the Saints are going to be in trouble as far as, are they championship contenders? They lost to the Raiders. They lost to the Packers. They were down 14 to the Lions. They were down 17 last night and needed Badgley's kick to go off the upright just to force overtime. I don't look at this as one of the even 8 best teams in football this year through 5 weeks, Brandon.
Well, here's the thing. Remember, I just said that I said this team will not be good this year. They have a decent regular season, a good regular season, and they'll struggle in the postseason like they have the last couple years. But the silver lining in this Mike Thomas injury is that Drew Brees is being forced to be comfortable throwing to other people. If he does that, and when Mike Thomas come back and there's balance on how he distribute the football, and there's 14 targets to Mike T, 8 to 10 to Emmanuel Sanders, a couple to Cook, they will be okay. And then Alvin Kamara is going to get his 7 to 8 targets per game in the passing game.
Yep.
But the defense aside, the last couple years, for some reason, they start off extremely slow. But then they turn into the best defense, most dominant defense the second half of the season. So if this is the trend and they continue that and they fix these mistakes that they're making on the back end, this team can contend. Better defense, balance on offense, and they will be okay. But we'll see what happens when Mike Thomas comes back.
Quickly, Jenna, before we wrap, because Brandon brought this point up early, I just want to mention at the end of the show, Justin Herbert looked great. I was a big skeptic of his coming out of Oregon. He's looked great. He played a really, really good game.